And pistachio growers have had a bumper harvest this year, beating the previous record by 1,000 tonnes, and growers expect harvests to triple in the next few years and are enjoying increased local and international demand. Chris Joyce is a pistachio grower from New South Wales and Research Committee Chairman with the Australian Pistachio Growers Association, and he joins us now from Sydney, but his background is so effective it looks like he's actually in amongst his prized pistachios. Chris, g'day. So when did you start in the industry, and were you one of the pioneers?
Yes, I was one of the early growers. I started 40 years ago.
Yeah, and what got you into it so early?
CSIRO released this pistachio tree, a new crop suitable for the Murray Valley, the hot, arid conditions with supplies of irrigation water, and recommended this crop. I, together with a small number of other growers, started it. We had a lot of troubles for the first decade, or perhaps a bit more. We ran into diseases, didn't know how to farm them properly, did all of that. However, in the last 25 years, we've mastered all that, and we now produce pistachios of the highest quality, worldwide, world-accepted yields. It's a profitable business. So in the last decade, a lot more growers are joining us and have been planting more pistachios over the last decade.
And so it took a bit of determination from you and the other growers to stick through it, through those early years of getting used to it. What's the key to growing a good tree?
A lot of experience and understanding how to grow pistachios in the Murray Valley under Australian conditions, Australian soils, Australian conditions, and that's taken a long time to do that. We've had lots of support from our international pistachio growers in other countries, particularly in Iran and in California, but you have to farm them differently in Australia, and that, I think, is the biggest lesson we learned in that difficult first 15 years.
And how do you farm them differently? Does it have to do with water or where you plant them?
More to do with the nature of the soils. Very simply, we need less water more often than they do in California and Iran because of the relatively shallow soils that we have.
And so where has the bulk of the industry been established in Australia, and how were you able to sort out that was the best place?
By chance, I think. The original recommendations was a lot wider area than we now farm, but more or less Swan Hill in the east to Waikerie in the west, along the Murray River. There's some in Griffith, there's some P. Binger at Tilapia Downs. There were orchards planted in northern New South Wales. They have not been successful because of summer rainfall creating fungal problems. So roughly along the Murray is what has proved successful.
And why was last season so good?
A combination of good seasonal conditions, but more particularly it was the emergence of the young trees that have been planted in the last decade are now starting to produce. And that's what's driven up that extra 1,000 tonnes over the previous record, is basically young trees now coming into production.
Yeah, because that 1,000 tonnes is like 30% more approximately
Yes.
than the previous record, huh?
Correct.
And so did that lead to a price fall in Australia this year?
There was a price fall this year in Australia, but that had nothing to do with the Australian crop. It was more to do with world supply. We're a commodity that has to compete with Iran and California, and we have to follow their price levels. In the same vein, for 25 crop, prices will go up.
And do Australian producers only supply the Australian market at the moment?
No, this year we started to do we've been doing some exports for a little while, but the volumes of export increased this year because of the record crop. We won't do so many in 25 crop, but we will do a lot more from 26 crop onwards. From 26 crop onwards, the new supply of trees will completely satisfy the domestic market. So we are working towards firstly expanding the domestic market by promoting Australian pistachios, but also we are looking to continue with the export markets that we have developed already.
And is China the biggest export market you've got?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so were there some pretty lean times for you, Chris? Because as you say, it takes a long time for a pistachio tree to grow. And so were you struggling for a while, but now you're pretty happy you stuck with it?
Extremely happy that I stuck with it. I must say that probably in the mid-late 90s, I thought of pulling all the trees out and planting them with Chardonnay. I'm very glad I didn't do that. And persevered. That first 15 years was very difficult because of learning how to grow them. And we've had a couple of bad seasons. The El Nino year of 2011 gave us big problems. But we've managed to overcome them. And in farming, there are always good seasons and bad seasons, but we can now consistently do good seasons. We'll have the odd bad year, but we can do well and we know how to do it. And the industry is not unique, but is a little bit special in that because of the hardships of the early growers, the cooperation between growers in the pistachio industry is very, very high. We freely exchange information between all of our growers, and they with us. So there's now about 50 pistachio growers in Australia, and they all cooperate, work together, market together, and collectively we're all learning from each other, and we get on well together, which is somewhat unusual in agriculture. Sometimes there's some unfortunate behaviour.
Yeah, because naturally you would think that the original ones would kind of want to protect their turf and not have too many people coming in and producing, but you welcome more and more people doing it?
Yeah, we've long seen the need for critical mass. If you go back not many years, we could only supply the Australian supermarkets with Australian pistachios for some months of the year and not the whole 12 months. So the supermarkets would stock Australian pistachios, then they start using imported, and our next crop came along and we would want to supply them, but they've got carryover stock. But now we can supply the major supermarkets 12 months of the year. Australian consumers can regularly purchase Australian pistachios year round. Sure, there's still imported pistachios in the market, and frankly, there probably always will be some.
And Chris, good stuff. Just one final question, most important question from my team here. They love their pistachios. They want to know from someone like you, what's the best dish that you've had with pistachios in them?
I make this fantastic pomegranate and pistachio cake. It is with lime, and it's fantastic.